Hi there, welcome back to my channel where I take you behind the scenes of my design process and show you how I craft visuals that are simple, striking, and easy to understand. So today's video is a bit different. Instead of starting from scratch, I'll be building on an existing idea. I'm taking this beautifully made infographic by the absolute powerhouse Visual Capitalist as my base material and putting my own creative spin on it. I've done this before and I feel a lot of other designers do the same as well. But the key is making it your own and not just copying it. Most times I start with the data and use it to guide the story I want to tell. But this time the concept came about from an existing design. I've gathered a few references, including the Naira note itself on my Illustrator artboard. The 100 Naira note has two versions, and both are here to help tell the story I want to visualize today. I've also grabbed some colors directly from the notes to match the two-tone style of the Visual Capitalist infographic I'm using as inspiration. Then I'm also including images of items that could be bought for 100 Naira at different points in time, so I can add more context to the narrative, just like the inspiration image. For now, everything is sitting in my inspiration layer, but as I start building the design, I'll move them into their final spots. With my reference in place, I create a guide on my artboard to ensure everything stays balanced, everything stays organized, and everything is just really well put together. Even though I could skip sketching for this one, my next step is usually to create a rough outline. And since I already have the inspiration, I could choose to skip this part, but I like to lay out that rough structure using basic shapes because for me it helps me mentally organize the layout. For this one, I'm thinking the title at the top, a timeline, a chart, the chart in the middle, and then room for the items below the chart. That's what I'll go with for this rough outline. Next, I create the background and give it one of the colors I've selected from the 100 Naira note. I'm going to start building the infographic, starting with the title and subtitle. So at this point, I'm not worried about the font style, as I'll change that once I have the foundation of the layout set. After I've placed the title and subtitle, what's next is to create the raw form of the chart. I tried to do this using the Illustrator graph tool, but it was more work than I anticipated. It was just so rigid in trying to get it to fit the way I wanted it to. I eventually decided to leave Illustrator altogether and create the chart directly from Google Sheets. I now have the chart, which I have downloaded in SVG since it's the best file type, since I'm going to bring it into Adobe Illustrator and edit it to fit my purpose. With SVG in place, I go right ahead and work on it more easily until I'm satisfied with the output. The next step for me now that the chart is in place is to add the labels, and to do that I use the dots on the chart to create a mark, which would then show me where to place the labels. Similarly to the original infographic, I'm focused on specific years, as I wouldn't be able to cram the whole years from 1960 to 2025. It would just make the layout look really cluttered. So I'll only focus on every fourth year. That's 1960, 1964, 1968, and so on. Now that I've done the chart, it's time to add the 100 Naira note itself into the design. Here I encounter a problem. Unlike the US dollar bill where the face is clearly visible, the Naira note is hidden and more abstract, if you will, thanks to the dismal values of the declining Naira. To fix this, I resize the chart, letting it fit more firmly within the guide. We now have the resized chart, so it's time to bring back the 100 Naira note I had removed when I wanted to resize the chart. And then I place a less transparent note behind the visible one. This acts to reveal the full portrait, and it gives the design a much clearer focal point. Unlike if I didn't add this transparent notes and let it remain abstract. So I'll just go ahead and make sure everything fits, and then I'll also be adding the horizontal lines across the chart, just like the source infographic, so it goes through the notes. Drawing from the original infographic, I make the area chart stand out more by changing the blend mode and introducing a duplicate shape with its own blend mode. So right now it's just about testing out different methods, different things that will make the main part of the chart. I'm going to try out different transparency, different blend modes, duplicating the notes and the shape. I'm just going to try out different things until I arrive at something I think works perfectly. Now that I am happy with the way the chart looks, I'll add a drop shadow to the shape so it appears more prominent and maybe gives an illusion of depth. I'll also include a spine similar to the original infographic in addition to the drop shadow that I've added. So the spine won't be an exact match, but it will be something similar. So I'm kind of satisfied with how it has turned out so far. I'll now include the intro block based on my rough outline. Again, at this point, I'm not too concerned with the font style, as I'll change that. What I can do instead is make sure each text is attached to a paragraph style. So when I do settle on the font, I can easily make the changes at once. After that's done, it's time to include the callouts, which are the insights I've found for particular years to give more context to the story behind the 100 Naira bill. At this point, I'll trace the point of each year and add the insights into their appropriate place. I'm going to follow a similar style with the original infographic, where a line goes from the point in time and terminates at the insight. My next focus is on the bottom section of the infographic, where I'll show items that could be purchased with 100 Naira at different points in time. So similar to the infographic, I'll desaturate each item so it appears in grayscale. And once that's done, I'll resize it to fit the artboard, ensuring that the space between each item is as equal as possible, is equidistant from each other, essentially. So right now I'm a little bit all over the place here because I was supposed to create these labels when I was putting in the years, but there's no harm in getting it done now, since the next step after this is to create the labels for the items below the chart. Once the label is done, I want to create the circles, and for that I will use the pie chart tool within Illustrator to create a bubble chart. So instead of generating a pie chart, once I have the figures in, I transpose the figures so they give me the different values in corresponding circle sizes instead of a normal pie chart. I'll then match the circles to the items. Comparing the circle of the bag of rice with that of water, the size is too disproportionate with each other, as you can see. So what I'll do is I'll attempt to use strokes to match the circles with the point of time on the stacked area charts, kind of like how it is on the original infographic, and see if that would help the overall design. So let's see how it goes. I tried different angles for the strokes and eventually settled on this. At this point, I'm not too convinced by how it looks, but to move the project along, I'll focus on building the other sections of the infographic and later revisit it. Just like the infographic, I'll put the title here to divide the bottom section from the top. And once I'm done with that, I'll move on to selecting a typeface for the infographic. Anytime I have to select a typeface for my project, it drives me a little crazy sometimes. There's just so many to choose from, it's almost unreal that I have to make a selection of 2 or 3 at most. So for this design, I wanted something different from the original. So I had to do some soul searching, like deep soul searching, going through different font styles, whether they're I was thinking of maybe pairing a sans serif with a serif. I wanted to use something that would closely match the 100 naira on the 100 naira bill. I eventually decided to go with Perfect Harmony as I felt it was the closest match, which I paired with archival typeface. and I feel like the pairing gives the infographic a clean and well balanced look, so you can see how it all happens. So I'll spend the next couple of minutes updating the paragraph styles with the fonts that I've selected, and I'll also adjust all the blocks of text so they remain perfectly aligned to the elements closest to them. Once I'm done with everything that has to do with text, I turn my attention to the color palette. I'm going to update the relevant elements and apply blend modes to unify everything with the background. So I have my color palette already chosen from the colors on the notes. So I'm just going to update that all across the infographic. Now that we have the colors, I'm not particularly thrilled with this version because I think the lines might be more confusing than helpful, and I also feel like it's making the design look a little bit cluttered. So I'm going to deviate from the original infographic and play around with it until I come up with something I think would work a lot more for this story that I am telling. So even though the lines were in the original infographic, I don't think I want to use it in this version, as we can see the values and story is saying something completely different. After exploring different options, I decided to partially do away with the lines. Instead of having the lines come from the area chart, they come directly from the year, then go through the circle and terminate at the Naira value. And I think this blends very well and is more suitable for this infographic than the original version. Now that the lines are gone and I think I'm happy with this option, I'm going to spend some time working on the bottom section of the infographic, ensuring the lines and the labels and the items themselves are all perfectly aligned with each other. At this point, I can honestly choose to stop here as this is a very decent version, but I want to see what else I can add to really make this piece my own. One thing I can notice looking closely at the notes is the pattern texture. So I'll create a pattern and incorporate that into the background. I am really loving how this is looking right now. So something else I can add to the background is this almost watercolor effect with these particular colors from the 100 Naira notes. So again, I create a rectangle and change the colors to arrive at this effect, then also include that in the background. I use different blend and transparency modes once again, so it's subtle and it doesn't overpower the chart and the content. So when I was exploring options for the lines connecting the stacked area chart and the bottom infographic, I had only placed the rectangle over the lines so I could work quickly. So now I'm just going to go ahead and remove and delete the line so everything is placed directly on the background. And with that, everything is complete and I absolutely love what I've come up with. It's beautiful. Looking at the final design, I think for me the difference between drawing inspiration and outright copying lies in how much of yourself you bring to the project. There were multiple points where if I was just copying, I would have definitely gotten stuck. For instance, if I had only used a single image of the bill, it would have made the infographic less understandable. It would have not provided any context at all. It would have been hard to understand the infographic. Also, I think if I'd kept the original stroke lines from the area chart to the infographic, it should have just looked cluttered. I mean, in the end, it was these decisions, the big and the small ones, that gave the final piece its personality. So if you're ever tempted to copy something you admire, I would say, like, take a step back and ask, what can I bring to this that only I can offer? Because that's where the real design magic happens. And that's all I'll leave you with for now. So thank you so much for watching. I know this video ran a bit longer than usual, but I really wanted to walk you through the process as much as possible, especially showing you how I work from a source of inspiration. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and check out the other videos being recommended to you right now. Until next time, have an amazing day and keep creating. Bye for now.